In this battle, we're going to be testing the mighty mercenary veteran Hoplites and the Thorax Hoplites against the sword followers. And the reason why this is relevant is quite obvious. Sword followers, some of the best mid-tier sword units in the game. Mercenary veteran Hoplites and Thorax Hoplites, some of the best spear units in the game, with a small caveat, and I'm talking in terms of cost efficiency. And also the lack of precursors really hurts the mercenary veteran Hoplites and the Thorax Hoplites, both against infantry and against cavalry. So their charge bonus isn't that great. 25 charge bonus, 22 charge bonus. Their armor is great, their morale is great. The mercenary veteran Hoplites also have the Inspire. I mean they are both disciplined. The units are both disciplined. And higher melee defense. The melee defense is higher than the sword followers, but not by much. The sword followers have higher melee attack, but once you go into Hoplite phalanx, that changes, because the Hoplite phalanx gives these mercenary veteran Hoplites and the Thorax Hoplites a 5 bonus versus infantry, which is both going to increase their damage, and it's also going to increase their melee attack. So these units actually have 35 weapon damage when they go into phalanx, and they also have higher melee defense than the sword followers. And what happens when both these units go 2 ranks deep is that the sword followers tend to wrap around a bit, because the barbarian formations are more staggered than the Hoplite formations. So the mercenary veteran Hoplites do reasonably well in extended melee, but this is when the sword followers do not use their precursors. That's quite important. We'll see why later. In the next test, we're going to be turning precursors fire at will back on. But you'll see the mercenary veteran Hoplites do quite well against the sword followers. And the Thorax Hoplites also do quite well against the sword followers here. But they are quite evenly matched, and anytime you have 2 units that are quite evenly matched, sometimes one unit is going to win, and sometimes the other unit's going to win. It's just the way it goes. But the mercenary veteran Hoplite is beating the sword followers quite convincingly here when fire at will is not used. So no precursors. The Thorax Hoplites also managed to beat the sword followers, and that will happen sometimes. Not all the time, but it will happen sometimes. Very even result though. And the result is so even that you could basically guess that the precursors would make the difference. So if you need to engage sword followers or barbarian infantry with your Hoplites, try to avoid taking precursor damage on your Hoplites before charging in any way. That might mean having militia Hoplites as a meat shield. That might mean making the sword followers charge something else and then charging in the mercenary veteran Hoplites. So now we're going to be turning fire at will on for the sword followers and see what happens. See how many kills the precursors inflict on the charge here. So let's just pause it when the precursors hit. Okay, so no casualties inflicted by the precursors here, no casualties inflicted here, but the hit point damage has been done. So immediately on the charge we should see more mercenary veteran Hoplites start dropping than sword followers. And indeed that happens. Same thing with the Thorax Hoplites, they drop quite fast here. But still, they're in even combat, because the Thorax Hoplites now have 39 melee attack, 74 melee defense, and they also have 35 weapon damage, 13 of that being armor penetrating damage. So that's very high armor penetrating value that they now have. But once again, it's fairly even. The mercenary veteran Hoplites beat the sword followers again. The Thorax Hoplites and the sword followers are once again very evenly matched, but the sword followers break first. And that might be that might be due to this unit of sword followers breaking first, and then the Thorax Hoplites. Again, this is a very 20 men remaining here, 35 remaining here. The general's effects, the inspire effect from the general, could turn this around, and certainly general's abilities could also turn this around. But it's not that these units, the mercenary veteran Hoplites and the Thorax Hoplites, are very good units if they can be used in situations they excel in, and that means don't taking precursor damage. It means hopefully being able to join a fight rather than getting charged themselves. But the problem is, of course, that you're not just going to be fighting sword followers. You're going to be fighting heavy horse, levy freemen, Celtic warriors, and Oathsworn as well. So whereas the mercenary veteran Hoplites and the mercenary and the Thorax Hoplites are good units, it's just that the rest of the Athenian roster just can't really compete with the rest of the Boii and other Arverni rosters, which creates a problem for them. So, isolated, these two units are very good units. However, when you put them in a battlefield situation, their shortcomings start to make themselves more pronounced. Strength and honor.